8.6% inflation increase. That's the highest since 1981. But you know what else is running hot? Consumer debt. And the bigger story might actually be what inflation means for consumer debt, what it might mean for you if you let yourself be part of the statistics. So one of the things that's really hard to ignore about gold is that it's fun. It's basic stuff, I know. And I don't mean to demote its standing from financial asset to interesting hobby or anything. I'm just stating the obvious here. Gold has a physical quality that will draw you in. And it does it in ways that a lot of other financial assets just can't. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this when it's probably obvious to anyone watching these videos already is that we kind of dwell on the crash mentality. So what would gold do if everything else burned down? Even though gold does pretty well on its own. Now, I see comments from people expecting gold to do better considering the performance of just about everything else. So if it's a hedge, what's it a hedge against? Well, there's no real magic in its ability to average out a market collapse, but it is up 40% since 2019, and as a non-performing asset, I'd say that's pretty good, but let's table that thought for a minute. Consumer debt. I kind of snuck out of left field with that one. Well, consumer debt's the kind of thing you hear about on CNBC. It's a fuzzy bit of guidance on how people are doing financially. And in the United States, there is a significant trend showing up all of a sudden. We've gone from having the lowest household debt compared to income in 40 years. To giving up those gains in just 15 months. So we went from doing really well to pretty much starting over. And if you were to look at it closely, that drop to record low revolving debt took about 11 months post-pandemic. And it makes sense. The majority of people here in the United States had stimulus benefits that were increasing their income at a time when lockdowns were lowering expenses. So people paid down credit card debt. It makes sense. Now that V-shaped recovery that we heard a lot about kind of seems to be a debt recovery because we've recovered our high interest debts since then. So in other words, people stopped saving. And some of that's going to be directly related to inflationary costs. Gas costs more, food costs more. But some of it, again, is that people simply don't like to save. So if we go back to my opening statement that gold is fun, well, maybe that doesn't seem so obvious or irrelevant when you consider that buying gold, collecting gold, stacking gold, whatever, is effectively saving. Now, all of us are in different places, and I couldn't tell anyone how to save. That's not really what I'm here to do in the first place. I'm really just here to talk about fun coins, but I can say that when I first started buying coins on a schedule, I did it as savings. And I did it in a way that I wouldn't be adding credit card debt to do it. I also wouldn't be stealing investment capital. Now, I did it by cutting out some expenses, at least for the scheduled stuff, and then I did it a little bit more if I got ahead in some way. If I had a good month, sometimes I'd grab a gold coin. Now, the brain's reward center loves this stuff. We're talking about the brain's dopamine pathways. If you're into gold or silver, you get a hit anytime you pick some up. And it's hard to get something similar from standard savings. And then on top of that, once you have the gold, once you have the silver, whatever it is, you just don't want to spend it on dumb things. Now, I saw somewhere that the average US consumer spends $237 per month on subscriptions. That's things like Netflix or Hulu, internet or phone. And I'm not trying to leave anyone outside the US out of the picture here. I'm sure you spend money on unnecessary things too. I just don't have your figures. So to free up my $500 a month for that gold budget, I cut about $250 from recurring expenses. I know I've covered that before. Apparently, I was spending more than $237 a month, and then I found a way to carve out another $250 beyond that. Now, I'm not saying it's easy or that anyone can do it, but it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. And that $500 a month added up to 30 ounces of gold over 10 years. So just from that effort alone, I've saved about $60,000. And that was doing something fun. So maybe you picked up on this by now, but I'm not filming these from my normal office the past few weeks, and that means I don't have my choice of visuals. I can't show you what 30 ounces of gold looks like, and I can't show you what I was picking up along the way for that $500 a month budget. I'll just tell you, It was quarter ounce American Gold Eagles. I also can't show you things that I've been picking up to add to that fun factor. What I did grab was a tube of gold buffaloes and then the coin that's on the top of my fun pile, again, to me. Now this is the gold coin I pulled out of a dumpster, and what isn't fun about that? I had both feet in, 12 garbage bags full of old food, and I pulled this out of it. So that alone, that makes it fun to me. The fact that there are only 288 of these in existence, that makes it fun. The fact that it's a rooster is fun. Roosters are total FU birds, and the fact that it was sent to me by a friend, that tops the list. I like this gold coin. So this video wraps in a few ideas. The first is the warning that I could lead with to get YouTube to show the thing to you in the first place. YouTube loves dire warnings. Well, I guess that would be that we just gave up all the gains we made in consumer debt over the last few years, and we don't seem to be stopping this at a time when rates on revolving credit are spiking toward all-time highs. Now that's a stat that looks at the whole population of a country, and I think that anyone who buys gold or silver to begin with probably is not going to fall in the typical range that these studies look at. But it's good to consider because debt is the kind of thing that will creep up on you until one day you have a significant amount. Now with the right budgeting in place, you can flip that around, and instead of having a significant amount of debt, you could have a significant amount of gold or silver instead. Now if you can swing it, it's worth it. Another part of this idea is that even if gold or silver did not appreciate, that hit you get from accumulating this stuff rarely exists in other financial assets. So if you're having trouble saving, it might be worth giving it a shot. And then last, I'm finding that there's value to fun in coins, at least for me. And it's maybe both good and bad. The bad is that I'm having to look a little bit harder to find a coin that I'm really excited about, especially now that I've hit certain accumulation goals. But the good is that even though I have hit those goals, there are still easy ways to stay excited about picking more up. Now, I have a list of maybe 3 or 4 coins that I'm looking for at the moment. I won't try to tell anyone that the buffalo that I just picked up wasn't fun, but I'd be more excited to find, say, a high relief lunar ox or that You're the Mouse that I passed up in 2020. I will find them, but at some point I'm going to reinstate the quarter ounce American Gold Eagle plan just to get a tube of quarters as well. Now, even though I guess I'm on the record as being a little bit bored with Eagles, I still get a big hit knocking out goals like that. So to wrap this up, I'm not here to tell anyone that you need to save. I'm just pointing out that some of the things precious metals solve really don't have to be advanced economic ideas. And if the question comes down to whether or not this makes sense at all, well, of course it does. You have certain conditions where it could make a lot of sense depending on where other things fall, and then you have conditions where it just makes sense regardless. It's pretty basic. So I think that covers it. Let us know what you think. You have to admit that this stuff is fun, even if you're doing it for serious reasons. I know YouTube thinks that's the only reason to do it because their algorithm sure promotes the grim stuff. The world's about to collapse. That's why you need this stuff. But I'd like to hear your take. Maybe tell us what's fun to you. Are Eagles or Buffaloes fun? Or do you need the random stuff to keep it interesting? Let us know. And while you're in the comments, be sure to hit that like button. If you found any of this interesting, make sure you're subscribed with the notifications turned on if you want to see more on the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.